When I first moved to my new ranch, I thought I was finally escaping the noise and chaos of city life. It was a modest 5-acre piece of land in Texas, just me, my barn, and the quiet that came with it. After years of living in cramped condos where you couldn't even open a window without hearing traffic or neighbors fighting through the walls, this place felt like a breath of fresh air. No honking, no barking dogs, just the wind, the occasional hum of cicadas, and the buzz of my generator when I was overclocking my workstation. It was peaceful, earned peace. I bought the property with cash, no mortgage, and most importantly, no HOA. That was my idea of freedom, wide open space where I could finally breathe again. At first, everything was perfect. My little workshop in the barn was turning into a hybrid maker space, part tech lab, part machine shop. I could work in peace, not worrying about the noise or someone complaining because I was fixing an old van on the side of the house. The closest neighbors were a distant subdivision called Lakewood Ridge, a sterile development with cookie-cutter houses, perfect lawns, and people who had way too much time on their hands. I didn't mind them. They stayed on their side, and I stayed on mine. But that all changed one morning when I found a letter attached to my gate. It was a manila envelope with the Lakewood Ridge HOA's seal on it. The kind of letter that makes you cringe before you even open it. Notice of intent to inspect structures for compliance. I thought, compliance with what? I didn't even live in their development. My land wasn't part of Lakewood Ridge. I opened the letter and found a demand no, a command that I allow their enforcement officers to inspect my barn to ensure it met their codes. I wasn't a member of their HOA, so I had no idea why they thought they had the right to step foot on my property. There wasn't a single mention of jurisdiction, permission, or any legal right to enter my land. Just arrogance. I sent them a letter back, polite but firm. I informed them that my land was outside their jurisdiction and that unless they had a warrant signed by a judge, they were trespassing. I sent the letter certified, made copies, and thought that would be the end of it. But the next day, I saw a black SUV parked near the corner of my property, just idling there. Tinted windows. Didn't pull into my driveway, just sat there for about 20 minutes. I wasn't paranoid, but I'd been around the block enough to know when someone's watching. I wasn't going to sit around and wait to find out who it was, so I installed motion sensors along my east fence and updated my surveillance system. The calm before the storm was officially over. 2 days after I sent the cease and desist letter, I got my answer, but not in writing. 2 men in black tactical polos showed up, standing on my lawn like they were about to raid a meth lab, not inspect a barn. One was a big guy, shaved head, sunglasses, name tag that read, Rankin. The other was younger, twitchy, and holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. Both had HOA enforcement written across their backs in big, bold letters. I'll tell you, when you see that, you don't think inspector, you think thug. Mr. Riley? The big guy asked, as if he already knew the answer. Yep, I said, wiping grease off my hands, keeping my distance. What can I do for you? You're on private property. We're here to conduct a structural inspection per Lakewood Ridge HOA's authority, Rankin said, stepping forward like he owned the place. I took a breath and said, and I'm here to inform you that this land isn't part of Lakewood Ridge. So unless you've got a warrant signed by a judge, you're trespassing. Rankin gave me a smirk, like he thought I'd fold, like he thought I was scared. Sir, this is a compliance matter, he said. Refusal can result in civil penalties. I shook my head flatly. No, it can't. Not here. Not now. Not ever. I'm not in your HOA. Your bylaws don't apply here. And if you take one more step, I'm calling the sheriff. The other guy, clipboard kid, mumbled something like, maybe we should check with legal first, but Rankin adjusted his belt and conveniently made sure to show off his holstered weapon. This isn't optional. At that point, I was done. I stepped back and held up my phone. Smile. You're on about 6 different cameras right now, I said. Every word, every step, every bit of this cosplay you're pulling, it's all being uploaded to cloud storage and shared with my legal insurance. Rankin's jaw tightened. Are you threatening me? No, I said. I'm documenting the moment 2 guys in fake uniforms wandered onto my land and pretended they had authority. He took a step forward, just enough to cross that line between confidence and stupidity, and then turned and motioned to his buddy. Let's go, he muttered, but his eyes stayed locked on me. This isn't over. Hope not, I said. I already made popcorn. They stormed off with all the grace of men realizing they might have just committed a felony on camera. I didn't feel relieved until their SUV was nothing more than a dot down the road. But that evening, I found another envelope in my mailbox. This one wasn't formal, just a poorly printed final notice, threatening further action under their HOA charter if I didn't comply. I called my title attorney, and she laughed so hard she almost dropped the phone. Unless their bylaws were written by God and co-signed by the governor, they've got no case, she said. But I wasn't going to take chances. I upgraded my motion detectors, added perimeter alerts, and backed up everything footage, letters, everything in triplicate. Then came the morning I'll never forget. I woke up expecting an ordinary day, but at exactly 9:37 a.m., my phone buzzed with a perimeter alert. I checked the cameras. I didn't see a coyote or a stray dog. I saw them again, Rankin and his sidekick, halfway across my yard, headed straight for the barn. No knocking, no warning. They were already inside my property like they owned it. I grabbed my phone, started recording, and slipped out the back door. I watched Rankin yank on the barn door as if he had the right to be there. I yelled at him to back away, but instead of realizing his mistake, he pulled out a gun. Now, I've been yelled at, threatened online, even nearly hit by a distracted Uber driver in Austin traffic, but nothing prepares you for the cold, unflinching look of a Glock aimed directly at your chest. Rankin barked, "Step away from the building. Hands where I can see them." I froze, one hand raised, the other still holding my phone. "You're trespassing," I said, trying to steady my voice. "And that's a deadly weapon. You just escalated this from a code violation to a felony." "Shut up and get on the ground," he demanded, his voice shaky now. I pivoted, ducked behind a water tank, and sprinted toward the house, my heart hammering. I slammed the door shut, threw the deadbolt, and triggered my security system's panic macro. Windows sealed, backup batteries online, cameras synced, and files uploaded to the cloud. I called 911. "There are 2 armed men on my property," I gasped, barely controlling my fear. "One just pulled a gun. They're impersonating HOA enforcement." "I'm not part of their HOA. This is my land." The operator's voice dropped an octave. "Units are en route. Stay on the line. Do not engage." As I watched from the window, I saw Marcus Me retired Army Special Forces neighbors printing across the field, rifle in hand. A few minutes later, Joe and Linda, the mechanic, and the retired teacher from 2 doors down, appeared from the tree line, ready to back me up. Rankin and his buddy knew the tide had turned. Marcus barked something at them from behind cover. Rankin raised his gun, but that was a bad choice. Marcus chambered around. "Put it down now." The moment Rankin lowered his weapon, the sheriff's deputies arrived, and the scene went from a tense standoff to a crime scene. They arrested Rankin and the clipboard kid, and when they ran Rankin's name through the system, they found that he wasn't even licensed. No security affiliation, no credentials. He was just a guy with a gun. The next few days were a blur. Sheriff Montero came to my house, showed me the digital EVY denke they found in the HOA office mails, memos, even a voice memo from Karen, the HOA president, telling Rankin to de-escalate hard if I resisted. The charges started piling up: aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, impersonating an officer, criminal trespass, and conspiracy. 2 months later, Karen was arrested in her tennis whites, her pristine lawn now a backdrop to her downfall. The court case was airtight, and Karen was sentenced to 6 years in state prison. Rankin got 4.5 years, and the HOA was dissolved. The neighborhood was finally free. And me? I got a settlement from the HOA's insurer. Enough to reinforce the barn and donate a chunk to help others fight against HOA corruption. So, what's the takeaway here? Maybe it's that we all have limits. And when a group of self-appointed bureaucrats oversteps, it's up to us to stand firm. The fight didn't just protect my land, it gave my entire town its spine back. What do you think? Have you ever been pushed to your limits by an HOA or some other authority? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going.